Okay, now we've discussed before you go to the gun store. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what to do while you're at the gun store. And like I said, there's a lot of videos out there about this, so I'm just going to go really quick through this. Be sober. I know that sounds really, really silly, but I can't tell you how many people I've had to personally turn away because they've tried to purchase a firearm while drunk or acting drunk. Don't smell like alcohol or drugs, because that's a sure way to have someone say, absolutely not, we're not selling you a firearm today. Don't bring friends that act like idiots or smell like drugs or alcohol, because again, it's guilt by association. We have no reason to assume that you're the responsible one and your friends are just the idiots when you're bringing a firearm into that group. So just be sober. Pretty simple. And remember that the clerks reserve the right to deny you a purchase for any reason, and they will. They're talking about their business here. They are going to, at least I hope, they're going to exercise some sound judgment and say, absolutely not, I'm not selling you a gun because you're, being a tool. Be courteous to the clerk's time. If you're just coming to shop and you're not planning on purchasing that day, try to go at a time that it's not so busy. Call ahead and ask what times are not busy. Just say, hey, I'm planning on coming in and comparing some guns. I don't think I'm going to be able to purchase right away. What's a not busy time that I can come in and look so I don't waste your time? You are going to, the opinion of you is going to go through the roof. And if you go at a not busy time, the best, you actually could get like 2 or 3 different clerks helping you. If they're not busy, they'll help you and they'll talk to you and they'll give you tips, and you might actually learn more if you go on a not busy time than if you try to get there and the clerk's got 4 other people to deal with who are actually making purchases and you're just milling around the case. So it's just about weekends and holidays and right around gun shows are really, really, really busy time. So in every gun store I've ever worked in. So this time of year where it's, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, this is a very busy time for gun stores. Weekday mornings are typically pretty slow. So if you can get a weekday morning away to play at the gun store, go for it. Also, allot plenty of time. If this is your first time purchasing, allot at least about an hour. Because a lot of times some people will run in, they'll say, oh, well, this is a quick process. It's going to take me 15 minutes to buy this gun and get out. And they end up getting delayed or denied. Or, or the paperwork ends up taking longer than they thought. Or their driver's license is expired. It's best if you allot yourself a little bit extra time. And if you get out there in 20 minutes, great, you got extra time on your hands. If you've done this a million times and you're going to the gun store and you know that you can get in and out of there in 15 minutes, good for you. But for first timers, I'd say about 45 minutes to an hour. Of course, remember your gun safety rules. Don't point the firearm at anything that you don't intend to destroy. Point the firearm in a safe direction, and if you don't know the safe direction, ask. Just say, hey, I want to look at these sites. Where should I point it? A lot of times gun stores will actually have specific areas that they'll say, hey, point it over there if you want to check the sites or if you want to hold it or whatever. In one of the gun stores I worked at, we actually had one of those deer heads that was up on a big cinder block wall, and we would always tell everyone, point the gun that direction. Point at the deer if you want to, check out the sites, whatever. But the floor is always a safe bet. Keep your finger off the trigger, of course. And be sure of your target and what is beyond, of course. Don't point things at doors, because let me tell you, it's really nerve-wracking if you're in the bathroom and you come out and there's someone pointing a gun at the door and it ends up being pointed at you. Had it happen, and it's not very fun, because when you're walking through the door, you don't know whether or not all of a sudden you just walked into a robbery and now someone's pointing a gun at you or what. So don't point guns at doors. Other rules to keep in mind are always safety check the firearm, even if the clerk safety checked it. Nothing drives me nuts more than a clerk who just hands over a gun without checking it. It drives me up the wall. A clerk should check the firearm and lock the action back so that when they hand it over, and everyone should hand it over handle first or butt first, you know, hand it over to the clerk or to the customer. And do not turn your back on the clerk while you have the firearm in your hands. Very, very rude, and some gun stores will actually kick you out for that because they don't know whether or not you have something in your hands, ammunition in your hands, and you're loading the gun. Do not turn your back on the clerk while you have the gun in your hands. Very, very rude. Ask permission to operate the firearms. Some firearms are very expensive and they want them to be in mint condition, and if they really don't want you to handle it, they'll often zip tie it so that you can't rack the slide or you can't do things, you can't work the action. But it's always polite to ask and just say, hey, can I rack the slide? Can I dry fire it? You know, most of the time you'll get a, yeah, it's okay, and sometimes you might get, well, let me check, make sure it's okay, but it's always good to ask. Of course, like I said, hand the gun back to the clerk, action open, and from the handle. And of course, try not to point at yourself, of course, but that's the way it goes. The exchange of knowledge. Now you're talking about the gun. You're talking about the features. You're talking to the gun store, the clerk about it. Do your own independent research about certain things. Gun store clerks do not know everything, despite what some people believe. Some gun store clerks really are very, very, very knowledgeable, but you might ask them that one question that they're just kind of like, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. Some gun stores actually have specific people who are kind of experts in their field. Like you'll have the revolver guy, or you'll have the shotgun guy, or you'll have you know, the AR-15 guy. You know, I mean, they'll actually have, and if they don't know, if you ask one person, they'll be like, you know what, I don't know, but let me get this guy over here and he can tell you. But some just make up whatever comes to their mind just to sell the gun. And they will tell you whatever they think you want to hear. And they don't know anything, and I mean anything, about guns. I have worked with people who have never fired a gun before in their life and are selling guns. And people are asking them questions and they're going, oh, well, yeah, this can fire, you know, so many feet per second. And I'm going, where in the world are you getting this information? And, you know, so be very careful about who you trust. If you have gone to a certain gun store 100 times and every single time you talk to this particular clerk, they give you good information, you go home and you check it and it turns out to be good information, and you've built up a rapport with that person and you trust that person, great. You know that they're at least giving you the best knowledge to their ability. But if this is your first time at the gun store and you're listening to some person, I would be very skeptical about what they're telling you. Just because in general, a lot of gun stores, the clerks, they're just there to sell. They really don't know what they're talking about. Be wary of anyone who gets upset if you doubt them. And if the clerk tells you something that just doesn't sound right, check it. Check the information before you believe it, even if you just have to go to the back of the store and make a phone call to someone. Or, a lot of times, one of the great things to do is smartphones. Smartphones are your best friends with internet capabilities. Say, just a second, I'm going to go, you know, I got a phone call coming in, or, you know, I got to go check something. Google it right there on the phone. You know, go to the back of the store, go into the bathroom if you have to, and Google it. And, you know, see if what that person is telling you is true. Because you don't want to have the wool pulled over your eyes when it comes to some of these things. Also, don't be cocky and don't be an idiot. Just like clerks sometimes don't know everything, you don't know everything either. And if you go in there going, well, this is, you know, my brother-in-law is a police officer and he told me this. It is the most frustrating thing in the world when you're trying to actually give good, solid information to someone and they are throwing it out because of some bad information that they believe. And, you know, and you can show them, well, here's, you know, 6 documents proving that what I'm saying is good information. And they're going, well, that's not what I heard blah, blah, blah. That's when you just want to go, you know what? Okay, whatever. You purchase whatever you want. I'm not gonna, you know, it makes the clerk give up on you if you are cocky and can't be reasoned with and just annoying. If you haven't heard of a specific firearm and you're not sure about it, it's probably best not to buy it. That happens quite a bit too. You know, a clerk will bring out a gun and be like, oh, well, this is a great gun. You know, you should buy this one because blah, 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 blah. Like I said, most of the time they're just trying to make a sale. And they'll sell you whatever they can sell you, even if it's a faulty firearm. And if you think it's a great deal, ask if they will take a deposit to hold the gun until you can do your research. Because a lot of times they'll have like a layaway program or a financing program, or as long as you give them a deposit, they will just hold the gun for a certain amount of time, and then you can go and do your research and you can come back and if you decide that you don't want that gun, you can switch your deposit to another purchase. So something to look at. Also, this gun is for you. Choose it for your own reasons. The worst words that a gun clerk can hear is my friend who is a cop, my friend who's in the Marines, my friend who's a Navy SEAL, my friend who's an FBI agent told me that I should get this. Every time I've heard those words, and I've heard them a lot, I just want to reach across the counter and strangle someone. Your police officers, your military, your FBI, your Navy SEALs, they choose what is available to them. For instance, the department says, guess what? You guys are all carrying Glocks. They have to carry Glocks because that's the gun that's issued to them. Same with the military. The military, here's your Beretta M9s for your pistols. That's what they have to carry. They don't have a choice whether or not they can carry someone else. You know, FBI, whatever. These department people who get trained extensively on these guns, yes, they think they're the best guns in the world because it's the only guns they've ever trained on half the time. So be very careful. You have the chance to break out of this little mold and this little box of you must carry this, you must train with this. And you get to choose a gun for whatever reason you want. And you get to have your own specifications, your gun. This is for you. Don't buy some gun just because so-and-so who just happens to be so-and-so something told you to get X. And if you do the research and you decide, you know what, I think I am going to get a Glock, or I am going to get a SIG, or I am going to get an HK, or I am going to get a Beretta M9. Great, but do it for your own reasons. And if someone, if you talk to someone and says, I really like the Beretta M9, I was issued it in the military, and it worked out really well for me, and you look at it and you say, you know what, I like all the features in it. I think this is a good gun. Fine.